Okay, we're here with Tom Clark and Doug Wilson from Elk Creek Computers. We're talking about emerging technologies, and I want to know about faster processors.
Tom, can you talk about the new Intel processors for consumers?
Sure. The new Intel processors have improved performance. And the way that they're doing this is not by increasing the processor speed, but by taking and moving pieces that used to be on the motherboard and putting them inside the processor itself. This improves the speed that information can come from memory and from the hard disk into the processor. And so the processor is not sitting around waiting idly while data is being transferred to it to do its processing. The other trend that we're seeing is, in this case it's kind of old hat, but still we're getting multiple cores. So we're having multiple processors doing the work in parallel inside of the processor instead of a single processor. So for programs that are designed to support it, you get much improved performance with the same clock speed with the new processors.
How many cores are you seeing in these new processors?
I've seen 8 in some of the high-end server processors, and also with a concept that Intel calls hyperthreading, which allows each processor to handle multiple pieces of the program in parallel at the same time. So it's the equivalent of a 16 processor system in one chip.
And what components are they taking off the motherboard and putting onto the processors?
They're putting, the current generation is putting the memory controller and the what they call the Northbridge chipset on the processor itself. The next generation of processors that is starting to be shipped now is starting to put the video controller on the processor, which will give you very enhanced video performance without having an external video processor chip.
Okay, now from my very basic understanding, the smaller something gets, which it must be getting smaller to fit in that space, the more expensive it gets. So is it more expensive, and why would someone want to use that? How does it translate into your day-to-day business?
Better performance, more reliability, and faster speeds. So you're able to do more in a shorter period of time, and you don't sit waiting for something to happen on your computer.
Do you have any customers who are using them now?
Yes, we've implemented newer technology in quite a number of our customers, and they are all very happy with the improvement in performance. So yes, making the move to a newer processor, newer computer really makes sense if you spend a lot of time waiting for something to happen on your computer.
But if you're, I don't know, in we were talking earlier about doctors' offices and things like that, and they're writing, but a person can't really write fast enough to notice these improved speeds, can they? If I was sitting there typing, am I going to notice an improvement? Where do you see the biggest improvements?
It's in accessing the information in their practice software, and for displaying and rendering x-rays. A new trend, especially in doctors that perform surgery in their office, and oral surgeons, is to have a 3D x-ray machine. And what it does is it makes a 3D image of the jaw area and allows them to place like implants and check the placement of implants right there in their office. So once the implant goes in, they can go and take an x-ray picture, and he can go and actually measure exactly where it is in the jaw and if it's where he intended it to be before he is done with the surgery.
It is so cool to see these 3D images and the doctor use a cursor to grab a hold of a piece of the skull, be able to rotate these images around,
Right.
And they look at them from all different angles in order to be able to get the correct perception of where that implant or other correction needs to happen for the patient. And it's just made such improvements in medical care.
Okay, so that strikes me on 2 chords. One is that the doctor's not sitting around waiting for the image to render like we do sometimes with video on a computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other, for me, thinking of myself as a patient, it's going to be probably more accurate in terms of diagnosis, and then you were talking about things that maybe a dentist would do, and so if they
Correct.
get it in the right place, I might not go home in as much pain. It may be a better, more accurate procedure
Right.
as well.
Correct.
So patients should be out there asking, do you have, what kind of machine is that?
This would be well, just ask them whether they have three-dimensional capability
Okay.
for diagnosis purposes, because there are a number of different manufacturers out there that are creating these types of test equipment.
And then on the back end, you need the kinds of processors you were talking about to make that render effectively.
Correct.
That's
Yeah,
really
to
cool.
be able to render it. Another advantage of the new processors is the reduced power consumption
Oh, yes.
required for the same amount of, or for the actually much improved processing speed, which gives them a larger return on investment, because now their power bill is a little lower, because they're drawing 80 watts out of their system instead of 160 to do the same job.
Okay, so in terms of your electrical bill, would that'd translate into dollar savings?
You can
Translate
save
it.
about $50 to $60 per computer per year.
Wow.
So
Okay, that's impressive.